Welcome, everyone, to episode 98 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor. Now, if you've been following this podcast at all, you'll notice that I haven't been doing this for a while. As we record this, it's February of 2025. I haven't posted an episode since August of 2024. There's been a reason for that. I've been very busy over the last couple months, not just with personal stuff, with jobs, family, all that sort of thing, but I've also been playing with a lot of different bands. My music career is probably the busiest it's ever been in 20 some years that I've been playing in bands, like seriously playing in bands. And if you followed my career with any amount of time, you know that up until last year, I was in an original band called Vertebreaker. We had different guys come in and out. I know the original lineup kind of split in 2019. I brought in a few other guys so we could keep playing and keep promoting our record. I had great times with that band. I think it was about last year when, more of those guys started to drop off, and then, we just sort of quietly decided to disband that whole thing. I didn't really make a big announcement over here, on the podcast or on social media or anything. It just kind of felt like it was time to move on. But since then, I've been doing a lot of work. I've been playing in cover bands, playing in tribute bands, doing session work for friends of mine, just trying to get as much content out there as I can. And it's only been in recent months that I've been able to share with you guys one of the things I've been doing, one of the things that I'm most proud of. And one of the things that we're doing here today is I'm introducing you to that band. It was back in August of last year when I wasn't necessarily looking for another original project to jump in right away. I was still working on a few, different projects with other guys, but I saw a post on social media, on Facebook specifically, saying that there was a local hard rock band that was close to me, specifically on my side of town. I live in the Orlando area, specifically in the Windermere, sort of West Orange County area, and it was fairly close to me. They said, yeah, we're an original hard rock band. We've got like an album's worth of material. We just need someone to come in and sing. And so that kind of piqued my curiosity. So I decided to reach out to these guys, and I found out that they had been playing together for a while. There was three of the guys were in a band called Iguanas de Trapo. A lot of the music was sort of like English and Spanish. It was really interesting. They decided to go in another direction. There was another band they were connected to called Black Dog Nation as well, which they'll definitely fill in all the information behind that. But we just kind of hit it off right away when I started playing with these guys, and they had about 10 songs that were relatively in the can. Like, they did a lot of the recording themselves. Some of the songs, I think half of them were already written before I showed up. The other half had me writing some vocals on it, but we clicked right away, and we really completed this album in record time. We kind of blasted our way through it, and that's I credit a lot of that to our lead guitar player, Jamie, who you're going to meet in a minute. He's a producer and engineer, and we did a lot of really great work. I'm really proud of this album, and this new band is called Sunset Rebellion. Some of you have been seeing me post about it, but here I wanted to take the time to introduce you to the guys in the band, to let you guys know what Sunset Rebellion is all about. And I'm here with the guys right now. We just finished our practice. We have our album release party on March 1st. We just announced our first show to the public, which is going to be on Thursday, April 3rd, at the West End Trading Company in Sanford. Sanford is just northeast of Orlando. We'll be opening for Tantric, which was a band that I loved back in the 2000s. Those guys had a bunch of hits. Also, Lydia Can't Breathe, who have been dear friends of mine for years. They've been a local band who have really worked all over the country. They've toured all over the place. They've played some of the biggest stages out there. And there will be a few more bands there as well. But Sunset Rebellion, our new band, we will be having our first show to the public there. So I've got all the guys here with me, and I just wanted to take this time to introduce all of you listeners, and anyone who's been following me for any amount of time, to get to know us a little bit. So we'll kind of go around the room. everyone just kind of take your time, tell us your name, what instrument you play, tell us a little something about yourself, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. I'm Carlos Brignoni. I play the bass, and I was working with Jamie on the side also, besides the Iguanas, that the drummer Rick was actually working with Jamie. Ironically, we all three started for a project that, did we have a name for that one yet?
Black Dog.
Black Dog Nation, that's right. Black Dog Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we lost the singer, and not like he died, but you know what I'm saying? It fell through. It fell through.
Yeah, it's our buddy John, who's a fantastic singer.
Awesome.
He wrote, I want to say, like 3 of the songs on our record were left over from those sessions, and it was great stuff. I'm really happy to sing them, and he's a fantastic singer and writer. So it's, it was no problem for me. I could tell it was just, when you're presented with a good song, you got to go with it. And Carlos, by the way, has been the last guy to join the band. He was sort of the last piece of the puzzle. And Carlos, from what I understand, this is the first band you've actually played bass in. You normally play guitar and drums and other things. Correct?
That's correct. First time playing the bass many years ago. I was actually a lead singer for a local band called Hoosier Daddy.
Oh,
I was talking about like.
I love that name.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
The Hoosiers. And I've played guitar, acoustic guitar. I play bass, drums. I write, I sing, but actually in front of an audience, it would be the first time actually joining a band and being a bass player.
Very cool. Well, that's Carlos, everybody, and up next, I want to introduce our lead guitarist, sort of the maestro behind all this. He's been the producer, engineer, also has directed our videos. So this guy, he studied film and music production. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Hey, yeah. So I'm Jamie Wilson. I'm the lead guitarist, producer, engineer, writer, director. There's probably some other hats I wear.
Yeah.
as well. I actually started in the Orlando music scene. 20 something years ago. Straight out of high school, I was playing for a band called Entropy at the time, and we ended up getting picked up by this singer. Her name was Corey Arkin. She was a Disney Channel actress who was kind of turning over a singing career at the time. Kind of like a lot of the Disney Channel actresses were back in that day. But we liked her because she had a certain punk rock attitude. It wasn't your typical bubblegum pop. It was kind of heavy, kind of hard. There was some cool tunes in there. And she needed a backing band.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were 2 guitarists, bass player, and a drummer, and she just kind of hired us as one whole unit to just stop what we were doing and become her backing band.
So were you already like connected, like within the organization, within Disney? Is that how you ended up getting that gig?
No, it was actually through her. Her father knew our guitarist through some other channels and stuff.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, it was a cool gig. It was really, for me, I mean, you think about it, I'm in, what is this, my freshman year of college, playing guitar, and all of a sudden I'm leaving to just like go on tour.
Wow.
And we played a lot of stops between Florida and basically as far up as Michigan. We never really crossed the Mississippi River, but everything on the eastern coast of the United States. We played a lot of dates. So I kind of got my touring legs under me on that particular tour. However, it came to a point where I was starting to realize that it was a lot of fun. I wasn't making any money. I was missing mortgage payments or rent payments back then.
Mm-hmm.
Living on, bologna sandwiches, the starving musician lifestyle. Every spare dollar we had was going into the gas tank or into our stomachs.
Yep.
And I had to make a choice at that point. Yeah. And a lot of the guys, I think, were feeling the same thing. So we kind of split. I kind of put music behind me for a bit at that point. This was shortly after 9/11 had happened.
Yeah.
And so I joined up with the military and did some time overseas on that front. Funny enough, the other guys actually ended up recruiting a different singer and forming a completely different band. A band that, if you lived in the Orlando area, you may have heard of. It's a band called Transmit Now.
Okay.
And Transmit Now went on to put out some really good stuff. They had some great singles. Somewhere around 2006, man, they were so close. They almost broke into the big times. It was pretty cool. So anyway, fast forward years later, my contract's over. I get out of the military. I get back down to Florida, and first thing I did is I took my GI Bill and I enrolled at Full Sail.
There you go.
I studied art, I studied music, and I studied film at Full Sail. Picked up a lot of skills there. And while I was going to school, a friend of mine introduced me to his buddy, John, who is the John we had talked about earlier. That's John Murray. And John was just looking to put together a group to kind of, write ideas, do some studio work and maybe do a little bit of touring. And it turned out John was a hell of a singer and a hell of a songwriter. And so we wrote a lot of these songs, and it became this band Black Dog Nation, which Black Dog Nation was more or less at the beginning just me and John. Is like a studio project. Nice. I ended up handling guitar, bass, and drums in the studio, as well as production, and then he did the singing on that one. And John had a few health problems that prevented him from taking any of these songs onto the road. So, Black Dog Nation kind of rolled to a stop. I concentrated on, work and family and life outside of music for a while. And then he calls me up one day and kind of wants to put BDN back together. So we reached out for musicians. We got a hold of Carlos. We got a hold of Rick. And we were all set to kind of put together our first rehearsal. And John just kind of came to the self-realization that those medical issues were still present. He still was not going to be able to tour. Yeah. And so Rick, Carlos, and I were like, hey, man, well, if we got the three of us, let's just kind of keep doing stuff. So we kind of put together a side group where we were jamming and writing songs. And at the same time, Rick and his brother were putting together Iguanas again. And they needed a lead guitarist for that effort. He asked me if I would join, and I was like, cool. Which is where I met up with Guy, who we'll meet later as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Rick was already involved with Black Dog Nation?
Sort of. So Rick... Almost. Yeah, almost. Rick never actually met John. It went all the way up to like the first meeting, the first rehearsal we were going to sit down and have to kind of jam the songs out, and John pulled the plug at that point. So we never actually got BDN together.
Gotcha.
That way.
How did you two guys meet, by the way? You and Rick?
It was actually through John.
Oh, okay.
And John reached out via the internet, and Rick can tell that story.
Got it.
So I met him through John.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's Jamie, and as many bands have, not just one guitar player, but two. And so I want to get the other half of our guitar duo up here, if he's willing to talk with us for a little bit.
Hey, Jack. How's it going?
What's up, man? This is Guy Groff on guitar.
I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is really cool.
Of course, man. No, this is exciting. I figure this is a good way to kind of introduce you guys to people who might not know me, but they'd be like, hey, what's with the new band you're in? Well, here we are. So Guy, yeah, I know that you were in Iguanas with Jamie and with Rick. You were originally on bass, but then you switched over to guitar. What made you make that switch? Were you a guitar player first or a bass player first?
So yeah, guitar player first, and I guess I should have a moment of honesty. When you joined the band, I know that you're a really talented bass player, and I just didn't want to be the worst bass player in the band, and also be in the band. So full transparency there.
Well, thank you very much for that.
I do. My real passion is for guitar. I love the bass, and I have a huge respect for bass players, and I think through playing bass with Iguanas, I earned a lot of respect for the instrument and for those that play it well.
Absolutely, and I love playing bass too. And I remember that was a conversation we were having early on. Because when we came in, Carlos wasn't in the band yet. It was just you three guys, and then I show up, and I was like, by the way, I play bass too. I don't know if you want me to do that or if you want me to just focus on singing. And we ended up deciding that it would be best to go with that classic five piece lineup. Just because, I mean, there are some songs that I can sing and play bass on, but it's there's a reason why you don't see a lot of singing bass players, because, like, with the bass you have to really be keeping the rhythm solid. And
For sure.
Sometimes, like, I didn't want either the vocals or the bass to suffer on particular songs because of that. So thankfully we got Carlos in. Guy ended up
Legend.
switching.
We love that guy.
Exactly. No. He's a gentleman and a scholar.
And much more. You
Yes.
have no idea.
Absolutely, clearly, and so, Guy, you ended up switching back over to a rhythm guitar, which you're more familiar with.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how did you end up meeting Jamie and Rick? How did you guys all come together?
Yeah. So it was really through Rick's twin brother Rob.
Yeah.
Rob and we worked at the same place. And it turns out we also went to the same school, and just through kind of that work and school connection, we learned that we both play the guitar and
Nice.
had all very, very similar musical influences, and we really hit it off. Rob's a genuinely good dude, and we started a jam night, and that's where I was introduced to Rick, and I love this guy right here. He is, I don't know, I love Rick, and I don't know how to explain it in words, but what a great dude.
I think you just did.
I just really connected musically, and as just a totally decent human being, I appreciate Rick and all he brings into my life.
Wow, he's
especially
putting Rick over strong right now. I like that.
He's the best, and I can't wait for you guys to hear from him on this podcast.
Awesome. No pressure, by the way. But also, Guy, I mean, before getting involved with Iguanas, had you played in other bands before over the years? Because I know you've been playing guitar for a while, but
so I have not anything serious that put out albums.
Okay.
Been playing guitar since high school, which is a long time now, and I don't want to say how long. But real passion for all sorts of music, as well as amp tones. I started building amps and guitar pedals, and really connected with some of the folks here who are also gear junkies.
Absolutely. For those listening, Guy and Jamie are both very technically minded. They know the ins and outs of all guitar gear and sound and all this other stuff that I don't particularly understand, and I've been playing for a while. But these guys, they're like their brains are like mechanics. Like they know what to do when it comes to all that stuff, which is important.
Well, I appreciate that, and I aspire to be as good as Jamie. But so back to the story, we're having this jam night regularly for years, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew that Rick and Rob had put out an album in Venezuela, and it was good music, and they're extremely talented and musical. And then I think 2023, Rick says he wants to do a reunion and get the band back together. And that's when I learned that it wasn't just an album; it was 2 albums. It was a really successful band, a number of top 10 hits. And I really love the music, and super honored that Rick invited me to play bass for that band. I had to learn bass, moving over from guitar to learn bass for this.
Right, because his brother Rob, he sang and played rhythm guitar.
Correct, yeah. And man, imagine my surprise when I found out kind of the celebrities that I've been jamming with for years. It was pretty amazing. And through Iguanas de Trapo, I met Jamie, who is the best guitar I've ever played alongside, and absolutely love his passion for music. Everything he touches is musical. Rob had to step away due to pursue other passions, and to let Rick say more about that. But once Iguanas, we pivoted and created Sunset Rebellion, and we talked about moving over to guitar, and that's where we met you. And that brings us to where we are now, I guess.
There you go.
Making an album.
Yeah, there's the Cliff Notes version of it. But, you know, like we said, every band is only as good as its drummer, and we happen to have an excellent drummer. He and Jamie really have been the ones to kind of sort of had the whole vision about what Sunset Rebellion was when it came to, you know, the branding, marketing, all the business stuff as well. You know, I know Rick, you know, is really behind a lot of that stuff, and he does a fantastic job. So we're gonna let him come up.
He's the best.
On drums, Ricardo Sanchez. What's up, bro?
Hey, what up?
Yeah.
Do you have subtitles in this thing? I'm the only accent in the band, so.
The sexy accent that is.
Yeah. Sorry, this is.
Drummers
don't sing, so.
I'm from the Northeast, from Philly, so like I've been told I have an accent. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I have one or not. Guys.
I feel like people have told a little bit of my story too, so I don't know what else to say.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, again, Ric Sanchez on drums, everybody. You're from Venezuela originally?
Yeah, I'm from Venezuela. Born and raised there. Part of my adult life was there too. That's where my music career started when I was 14, and I started playing drums with my brother, Rob, who's my twin brother. Yeah. And we formed a band back then. It was called Iguanas de Trapo, typical high school band, and we had an 11-year career there in Venezuela, where, you know, it's a country dominated by salsa and Caribbean rhythms.
Sure.
But there's a nice underground music scene where rock is actually pretty good.
Where in Venezuela did you guys grow up?
Caracas, which is
the capital.
Capital
Okay,
city. Yeah. So and there's a ton of festivals and opportunities there to develop as a band, which we took advantage of, and we had the opportunity to record a couple albums, one with a record label, the other one independent, but had the opportunity to open shows. We opened a show for Red Hot Chili Peppers back in Caracas.
Wow.
That was kind of like a pinnacle of my music career.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing, because like, and you know, we've touched on this a little bit when I first joined the band. I knew that there was a history there with Iguanas de Trapo. I didn't know quite how far back it went. I know Guy kind of touched on this earlier, that there was some, like, you guys actually were on the charts in Venezuela.
Yeah,
and I mean, to be able to open for the Chili Peppers is massive. Like, that's incredible.
The equivalent of Billboard in Venezuela, it's called Record Report, and we reached number 6, which back then was a pretty big milestone. We were ahead of the Black Eyed Peas. You know what?
Like, yeah, dude, that's top 10 on the charts. Like, that's incredible.
So, no, that was really, really fun times. I got the opportunity to meet a lot of talented musicians and people in Venezuela that taught me what I know today. And but life, you know, it's hard. And in Venezuela, it's been a rough couple of decades, and we back then, almost 20 years ago, decided to emigrate and move to the U.S. And in here, obviously, everything else took priority: a career, family.
Yeah. And
it wasn't until I told my brother. Well, I started jamming with him and Guy in a band called Ricky Bobby. It was an informal jam band, basically, but. We started feeling the passion for music again, which we had forgotten a little bit. And, at that point we were, I looked for some classifieds. By the way, I'm responsible for the classifieds and ads in the band.
Well, yeah, and I think you and I were connected on.
Yeah, because you almost invited me to play for Friends of the 90s.
That's right. Friends of the 90s is a 90s cover band that I play with a buddy of mine. And that's actually how I first got into contact with Rick. I was just looking around through like Bandmix and other sites, and I saw that there was another drummer who lived pretty close to me. Like, seriously, like your house is like maybe 10 minutes away from mine, which is wild.
In Orlando is wild.
It can be, yeah. So I mean, so that's how I first came in contact with Rick, and I think you were the one who made the post, you know, talking about. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I've got this new band. We're looking for a singer. We're, you know, just straight up hard rock band, and so that's how that all happened.
Yeah, if it has typos, it's probably my ad.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah, rock and roll.
That's fine.
It's the most rock and roll thing.
That's why your English is actually better than mine, so it works out fine. No, but yeah. So I mean, again, you have this whole history with Iguanas de Trapo. You decide to reform it, with some other guys over here.
Yeah, it was fun because there's this revival of bands from the 90s and 2000s nowadays, and getting back together and playing. And my brother and I were half of the band back then.
Yeah.
And, we said, well, we're not all the original members, but we are, lead singer, drummer, and rhythm guitar. Let's just bring in two talented musicians to the fold, and
bring in some local guys
play some of the old tunes that they deserve to be rescued a little bit. So
there you go.
We had a show at the Abbey in Orlando.
Nice,
it's a very nice place downtown, and we had the time of our lives, and we kind of like started. Thinking that maybe we can do the crossover, which is not easy. Like
right.
when you write in Spanish and your music is catered basically to the Spanish speaking audience,
right?
It's not easy to make a name for yourself in the U.S. So
right, which I mean, definitely in parts of Florida. I mean, in Orlando has a huge Hispanic community, so I mean, it's definitely not the worst place to be, as far as that goes.
Well,
I mean, it's even more so in Miami.
They like Bad Bunny and
right,
and reggaeton mostly, but
right.
But the rock scene was something that I always been passionate about and understanding. Well, marketing. My career outside of music is marketing, and that's what put food on the table, and understanding audiences and what actually moves people is a passion of mine. So I like to apply that to music as well. I understand where is the taste, where the bands that actually draw crowds, and what are the type of influences and things to do, right? So I am learning. I will continue to be learning about this market and the music industry nowadays. But I am fortunate to be surrounded by incredibly talented people. That's makes
awesome,
it easy.
So. Yeah. So when you and your brother did reform Iguanas, was there any like talk or any plans of like maybe like signing with like a management or like doing any touring opportunities, maybe going back to South America and doing some shows down there? Was that ever on the table?
Well, playing for a number of years, that creates connections. So we have a ton of connections of bands. There's a ton of bands from Latin America that want to play here in the U.S.
Yeah. And
so we still have a couple of opportunities or offers to go play with them and have shows. But my brother decided to focus on something different than music at this moment.
Gotcha.
And I decided to put all my effort, energy, money, sweat, tears onto these projects, Sunset Rebellion, that I do believe has a better path to success and in this market for sure.
Gotcha. That must be such sort of a double-edged sword. Again, you're in a band with your brother. He's your twin, so you have that like built-in bandmate right there that you've known your entire life. But then when you run into, whether it's business disagreements or, creative issues or whatever it is, and I'm not saying that's what it was between you and your brother, it sounded like there wasn't any, bad blood there, but it still has to be a little bit bittersweet, not having him involved.
It is. And with any brother, but especially with twin brothers, it's almost like you read their minds, right? And
sure.
And musically happened too. Like I play with him, and he knew the next beat I was going to make, and even the mistakes I made. Like he is very quick responding to them. So we have a very good chemistry playing together. But one thing I love to do is learning about musical influences. I know a little bit about your musical influences,
sure,
and a little bit of the musical influences of everybody in the band, and I think that adds to the flavor of it, right? Like I've been used to playing with my brother and we have very similar, taste in music, but seeing different types of music getting together create something new and unique, and that's what I want to
absolutely do. And it's sort of been like a through line for most of my career and most of my life is just I've always wanted to be in just a straight up hard rock band. I grew up loving Aerosmith and Kiss and Van Halen and Def Leppard and Motley Crue, obviously, bands that, predated, because I was born in 1984, so I was way too young to experience a lot of those firsthand. And then, you had the grunge period, then you had the period after grunge, and, rock and roll, especially in the U.S., has been in sort of a weird position, especially the last 30 years. And just, it's not as mainstream as it once was. And you hear critics and all kinds of people say, it's like, oh, you're just a rock band. Oh, they have these cute little terms like butt rock and all this other stuff, and just stuff that really annoys me. I mean, personally, as a fan and as a guy who's, in bands. But I think uniquely when it comes to, at the local level, my experience has been I've almost exclusively played shows with bands that are either super heavy, like death metal, or like very like alternative, like pop punk, sort of on the lighter side. And I know personally, I've always been somewhere in the middle of all that. And I think our band in particular, people might hear it, and you might get some people who might say, oh, it's kind of a generic sound, whatever it is. But there are a lot of different influences here, like across the board, from all the different eras of rock and roll, the pre-grunge, post-grunge, all that stuff. And, there are a lot of eclectic influences in this band that I can tell already. And I think we've only started to sort of scratch the surface of where we can go creatively. And keep in mind, like we mentioned, half of the songs on our record are, material that have sort of carried over from other projects. It's still like we've been together less than a year, and we've already managed to crank out like a full-length album. This is actually the first, now that I think about it, it's actually the first full-length album that I've actually recorded vocals on, which is something I'm pretty proud of. So I'm excited to be a part of it. And I think there's a lot of potential for this band. And I'm hoping that by the time people hear this and by the time we actually play our first live shows, people are going to sort of understand what it's all about. Rick, I think you're the one who came up with the name Sunset Rebellion.
It was a consensus. We got together and voted on multiple options. It was a fun session. But yeah, one of the options was Sunset Rebellion, and we all kind of like, I mean, you started mentioning, genres and things like that, and that rock is one thing that. Oh yeah.
They throw out terms like dad rock and all this other kind of stuff. Which let's be honest here. I mean, we're all guys in our 40s. We're not spring chickens, and that's fine. We're not pretending to be. People are looking for authenticity. I mean, look, we are who we are. It's it is what it is, and it's funny. I remember when we first posted the video of like the single to our first song, which is Rebellion, sort of our band's namesake. It's funny, one of the comments, and like I don't think it was meant to be endearing, but we all laughed at it. There was one guy who posted, I don't know who it was, says like, this sounds like an anthem for divorced dads.
Divorced dad rock, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well look, divorced dads need something to listen to too.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, divorced or otherwise. But I mean, look, we're not. We're certainly not trying to pander to anybody. We're not trying to pretend that we're younger than we are. If anything, we've been doing this for a while. We have experience under our belts, and hopefully can do something that reaches across different generations. And certainly when it comes to the younger generation, hopefully we can use it as a way to pass on some wisdom or talk about what it was like when we were young and that sort of thing. And I think knowing that going into it, we're all very self-aware about who we are, but we've all been doing this for a while. We know what we like, we know what it takes, and we know what sounds good. And I think we can carry that experience into this. Hopefully the goal is to create something that's timeless. We're not necessarily trying to fit into what's going on right now, right at this moment in music. We try to pull from all different time periods, all different eras, and try to do something that's uniquely us. We're not trying to be we're not tracing trends right now, but we're also not trying to be like retro either. It's sort of a hybrid of all that stuff. And hopefully I think that's what is going to make Sunset Rebellion. That's the idea, is just try to be our own thing. We're not trying to copy anyone in particular. I don't know if you.
The story behind the name was exactly that. Like we are pretty much rebelling against our own sunsets, right? Like our own fading into obscurity,
our own
right?
mortality.
And our own mortality, and it's just a fight for our lives, right? And that's the whole. That's what's fun about rock and roll.
I mean, I think it's almost like looking at this as like, and not to be like this, but it's almost like playing every show like it's your last, or making every record like it's your last, and it's not going to be ours. Obviously, there's a lot of gas in the tank left, but it's we're still a brand new band at the end of the day. So we're taking all that experience, but also trying to do something new with it. And I think keeping that energy as a part of it, I think is going to be what hopefully gets people's attention. Certainly locally. I mean, internationally, nationally, who knows? There's a lot of talented bands out there. So, but at the end of the day, we're just kind of try and write the best songs we can and make the best records we can, and try to put on a killer show as well. I really can't wait to get on stage and play live with you guys, because that's my favorite part of what it is that we do. And I know you guys feel the same way. I know you guys feel that way about playing live.
Guy loses his virginity after every show.
Every single time. I don't know how he gets it back. Somehow he manages. It's like a regenerative, it's like a mutant power. It's like he's one of the X-Men. I don't know how that happens, but yeah, that's just something. So yeah, I know we have our CD release party is sort of like an invite only kind of thing. That's going to be in Winter Garden. It's going to be in Ric's neighborhood, actually. Like we rented out like a clubhouse, right near our houses. We're probably only like maybe less than 100 people getting there, but we're going to have our friends and play the new album start to finish, which I think we decided on the name for the album, Exit Delay.
Yeah. So Exit Delay was one of the rejected band names.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So funny enough, that we spent probably a week, 2 weeks maybe, where throughout everybody would go through their normal work day, and everybody had kind of a shared notepad on the phone. We were kind of sharing this Word file together, and everybody would just throw in random stuff. And we decided, after I think it was like a week. After a week, we were just going to get together and just start eliminating stuff we didn't like and voting on these names. And God, we ended up with there had to be 250 just random names in there. Some of them really good and some of them pretty out there. But Exit Delay was one of the names that had gotten thrown on that list. It ended up being kind of a runner-up, and we decided we wanted to hold on to that and use it for something at some point. Funny enough, another name on that list that got rejected for a band name was Drag Me to Heaven.
Oh.
And as soon as it wasn't going to be a band name, and I knew it was like free and available, like the next day at work, I sat down on my lunch break and wrote the entirety of that song around that name, music, lyrics, and everything.
Yeah, that was all you, Drag Me to Heaven, which I got to say, I'm kind of glad that's not our band name. It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is.
I think it works better as a song title.
Well, I think that was the exact comment too. We looked at it and went, that is a song. That is not a band.
Yeah, you ever notice you see a lot of these bands with these like really long names? I'm not going to name any of the names, but you guys know the kind of bands I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay, nothing against them, by the way. I'm just saying it's. I'm glad Sunset Rebellion. We kept it 2 words, pretty succinct. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that the right way, but it's. Yeah, I like our name. I like Sunset Rebellion.
Yeah, I mean, we had to go with something, and Van Halen was taken.
That's true. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure that one already happened. But yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to our first show. And you had touched on this earlier, Jamie, and what I think is interesting to point out for this record is that we have multiple songwriters on within the 5 of us, but also with John Murray writing 3 of those songs. It reminds me a lot of the first album that Journey did with Steve Perry.
Right.
They had a guy in there before, Robert Fleischman, who sang, who was going to be their singer. That didn't work out for whatever reason. but like he co-wrote the words for like Wheel in the Sky.
Right.
And Winds of March and a bunch of other songs that ended up on that record. So, it's kind of a Pete Best syndrome kind of thing. But yeah, I'm definitely glad to sing. I love the songs that John wrote. So I'm very glad to sing them. I look forward to meeting him one day, because I definitely want to talk to him, because he's fantastic. But
yeah, John's a trip. We'll have to get you in a room with him.
yeah, but I think the point is that you have that level of variety on this album. It's not just all stuff that I wrote. I mean, like Drag Me to Heaven, you wrote 2 songs, complete music, lyrics, everything. Is Drag Me to Heaven and
No One Dies of Love.
And No One Dies of Love, of course, which is our second single. I know that has a lot of very personal meaning to you. I don't know if you want to get into that right now, or
well, yeah.
about it?
So it kind of goes back to 2020, right around that time. It was.
Oh, what happened that year?
Yeah. So my family took quite a hit in it was like 2017 to 2020, but 2020 was kind of a bad year.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, so it was my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my father, and then my wife's uncle that she's very, very close to, that was very close to. And it was just like 4 people all in a row that we lost within a very, very short time frame.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is that the title, No One Dies of Love, was a poem that my wife had written years ago, 20-something years ago, when her and I first met. And the poem, I wish I could find it. It has since been lost to time, but the title of the poem stuck in my head. That's what I remembered. And I asked her if I could repurpose that title for a song, because even though she wrote that poem about something completely different, it just felt like it fit the way we were feeling at the time. And it was kind of like, Sunset Rebellion is rebelling against the sunset. That was kind of my rebellion against grief a little bit. It was kind of like, No One Dies of Love. This is not going to kill me. Yeah. Because I won't let it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. It's I knew how personal that song was to you, and to your wife Nadine, and all this. So it's So yeah, no, I was very happy to sing it, and I think getting to that earlier point about having the variety on this record, you still have Guy and you still have Carlos. Both of these guys are talented writers as well, and even though they're writing didn't really get featured on this album as much, mainly because Carlos just joined the band. That makes me even more excited to see what we're going to do in the future, because now you have different creative inputs in here. And even with the variety of this album, Exit Delay, I think we're just scratching the surface. I think we're capable of going even deeper. And
I am never living in the present. I am always like a year out. I'm always way ahead of what we're doing. So I've got a lot of song ideas already collecting together. I know we've got one song that's completely Carlos penned that is going to make it, I think, onto the next album, so everybody will see that. I know Rick's throwing up the horns. He's a big fan of that song, so we're definitely going to do that one. There's one I've written. I know Guy's been throwing around a riff that's pretty cool. We'll probably work something out around that. So you're going to see a lot more songwriting and variety on this one, as well as I've still got quite a bit left in the reserve tanks as well.
For sure.
See what Jack can do.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely co-wrote a few songs here already, like the title song Rebellion. When we were going through that, you guys had presented me with that riff, and I was thinking like man, this song's got a lot of energy to it. I could see this being like a closer, being like sort of like an anthemic, and it was the first song that I written with you guys. So my thing was thinking like, all right, we want this I really want to come out of the gate swinging, really want to make a statement and like sort of name it after the band, sort of like how Black Sabbath had the song Black Sabbath.
Right, yeah.
I was also years ago in a band, Impatient Nation was the name of it, and originally that was the name of the song, and we were just like, why don't we just call ourselves Impatient Nation? That's a good band name. So I digress. But yeah, that was sort of my rationale going into this one. And you also have stuff like All I Really Want, which I heard that, I think like, oh, that's sort of just like a party rock song, so maybe I can keep the lyrics a little bit lighter there. contrast that stuff with like, My Therapy, which is one of John's, which is like much more serious, it's a much darker song.
Right. Yeah.
And, so there's definitely a lot of different moods. And then there's Broken Wings, which, me and Rick kind of worked on the lyrics of that together. And that song is beautiful, just because I love the theme of it, just because it's talk about like what it's like when you're young, or like going to a parties and you're not sure that you fit in anywhere, and
right.
Especially young guys, like you're trying to like get something going, trying to like meet a girl or somebody, but you don't know what to say, or you're trying to like impress a new group of people, and you're really trying to find in where you fit in. And I know for me personally, being on stage and figuring out my love of music, that's really one of the only places in my life that I feel that I'm really in control and uninhibited. And that's been a release for me. And just even now at 40, I still feel that way sometimes. And that's one of the things I love about being in this band, because like, I was in bands before and it didn't work out. And this has been sort of a vindication, just sort of a sign that like, it's really giving me a shot in my arm when it comes to my career and all the stuff I've done before. And I'm excited about the future still.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like I feel like I'm just getting started. And I think we all kind of feel the same way.
Oh yeah. I think we have a lot of great things coming.
Yeah. So Guy, I do have to ask you something, because I know you were in Iguanas for a little bit. Now that you're playing guitar, you're in a band, an original band. How do you feel about being on stage and gigging? Are you nervous? Or how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you have enough experience that's prepared you for this sort of thing, or what's your mindset going into it?
Yeah. So a couple things. I really love the music.
Yeah.
And I really want to be present and feel the music on stage. I mean, we are who we are, right? We've all been around for 40 years or so, and I'm a little bit of an awkward person. Little bit. I feel like I'm.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think out of the five of us, you're probably the most quiet, the most reserved.
Oh.
At least on the surface.
Yeah.
But I think once people get to know you, I think once you get on stage, I think people are going to see a completely different side of Guy Groff that they're not used to.
Yes, that's what's going to happen.
I think so. Yeah, I was just curious where you were at with that and how you felt about it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I really want to be present, feel the music, because I really like what we've done with Exit Delay.
Absolutely. There's an animal right there that's willing to be let out of the cage. I can tell. And Carlos is making some sexy animal moves right now in the background. I honestly, Carlos, and I've only gotten to know him over the last couple months, just because he was the last to join the band. I feel like I've known this guy for years. Like I feel like we vibed like almost instantly. Just like both have very similar senses of humor. I don't know if you felt that way, but I felt that way.
Yes, we kind of feed off each other with like movie quotes or
of course.
Sing it, or lyrics and or do making some
that's right,
some accents, some accents.
Rick just said, "You complete me."
My other best half.
Very cool. I mean, it's exciting, man. I'm excited about what this band is capable of. I'm excited about our shows. We're definitely looking to hit the ground running, get our names out there, and I'm really proud of this album. I'm really proud of the work that Jamie and Rick have done. I'm really proud of Guy coming out of his shell. Obviously, I'm saying, man. People aren't ready for Guy Groff on stage. He's this guy's a rock star. I can tell. And Carlos, getting to meet you, just to have that complete lineup, it's fun. Like I'm really excited about the shows we're going to do. I think we're really going to knock people out. So, anything else you guys want to say before we sign off here?
Let's do this.
Hey, Guy lost his virginity right before this podcast.
I know. We were there. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh.
It was tender. It was the best 30 seconds of her life. Cool. We could probably cut it off there.
Yeah, we don't have that last part. It sounds like.
So that's it. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Phoenix Report, where we finally got to get a proper introduction to the guys from Sunset Rebellion, my new band. I'm really proud of this record that we've done. I'm really proud of this band. I can't wait for you to come see us live. In the meantime, check out, all our links are going to be available here in the description. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you hit like, subscribe. You can leave a positive review, leave a nice comment, whatever you feel like doing. Check out all the links we've got in the description. Stay tuned, because it sounds like Sunset Rebellion is just getting started. So hopefully that ends up being the case, but feel free to come check us out Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 at the West End Trading Company in Sanford. We will be opening up for Tantric and Lydia Can't Breathe, and we will also be joined by Failure Protocol, who's my buddy Clyde's band. It's going to be a really great night. Make sure you come out if you're in the area. But in the meantime, this has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. Have a good night. Bye.